Hello everyone, how's it going? It is Theonor as always, and I'm here to bring you another top whatever list. This time it is the top 7 races of Warcraft. Now, this list is, as always, just my personal opinion. They are the races that I like the best, and they are also not necessarily playable races. They can be non-playable as well, as you will soon see. So, without further ado, here we go. Number 7 on my list are the Mantid. Now, out of all the servants of the Old Gods, I have to say that I like the Mantid the best. I really like how their society is structured, with the Empress being at the whim of the Claxi Council, and all in all, their society being dedicated to the Mantid cycle, which seeks to root out the weak from the strong, best exemplified by their Paragon system, all of which are great characters, the Paragons I mean. I also really like their relationship with their patron deity, the old god Y'Shaarj, and how they are bound to him, but they are not blindly bound to him, so to say. By this I mean that they owe allegiance to Y'Shaarj alone, and not the Shah, which are merely the intelligent remnants of the old god. Now, their culture and society is unique, they have a cool storyline, and are, all in all, pretty great. Number 6 on my list are the Nafrazim, better known as the Dreadlords. I think, out of all the demons, that the Nafrazim have some of the best storylines, and you know when a Dreadlord shows up in a quest chain that it's going to be at least a little bit interesting. The Dreadlords are the master spies and manipulators within the Burning Legion, and are at the heart of many of the great storylines of World of Warcraft, such as the Ashbringer comics or the Wrathgate. Really, their very nature as the insidious part of the Burning Crusade makes them have great storytelling potential, and this is why I think they are great. Number 5 on my list are the Arakkoa, and this ranking was made especially true, ironically enough, by Warlords of Draenei. The Spires of Arak's storyline was, in my humble opinion, one of the best parts of that expansion, and I think it's a pity that so many people haven't experienced it. I like the Arakkoa storylines in Burning Crusade as well, with the followers of the Talon King Terok, the Sephek, and the followers of Adal, the Naru, and the Worlds of Draenei storyline, if nothing else, ties into the Burning Crusade one magnificently. Almost every thread of Burning Crusade lore is addressed and built upon wonderfully, and the resulting Arakkoa society and civilization is a very dark and a very intriguing one. I also really like the mythology constructed in Warlords of Draenei, and I especially like how it tied in with the bits and pieces of lore we had about their religion in Burning Crusade, in order to form a great narrative with lots of possible implications. Too bad the rest of Warlords of Draenei's story wasn't like the Spires of Arak, eh? Number 4 on my list are the Draenei. We finally have a playable race, sound the alarms. I like the role of the Draenei as the sort of apostles of the Holy Light, and I also really like their storyline both within World of Warcraft and outside of it. That being said, this idea of being the champions of the light is more of an ideal, I think. Out of all the Draenei, Velen is obviously the most dedicated one to it, but each individual Draenei does or does not feel connected to the light and is also not necessarily a good person, pretty similar to Christianity in a way. The Draenei, despite the fact that they are usually good people, do have the potential to turn evil, for example the character Sokarfar or kill Jaden and Archimonde for instance, or at least become very morally grey characters such as Vindicator Marad. While their ideal as a race is to become the leading part of the Army of the Light, I like how, outside of Prophet Velen himself, no Draenei is really perfect in that goal. And if something were to happen to Velen, like it did in Warlords of Draenei, or within his short story, it would certainly cause a rift in Draenei society at the very least, and I find all of these allegories very relatable, so to say, and very interesting. Number 3 on my list are the Blood Elves. That is to say, I do like the High Elves as well, but more so after the Scourge invasion of Quel'Thalas. In a way, the thing I like the most about these elves is one single disaster, the Scourge invasion, and how they dealt with it and its aftermath. Just imagine, the elves lived in a fairy tale kingdom considered to be impregnable, and one invasion permanently damages the kingdom, cuts off the source of their magic which they were addicted to, and kills 90% of their population. That is a lot of people. So, I really like the changes the Blood Elf society has endured, and I think, and I might be alone in this opinion, that the Eversong Woods and Ghostland storylines are some of the best of Burning Crusade. Without going into too much detail, the changes, both the necessary and the cultural changes that the elves have gone through after the Scourge invasion, are very interesting and very understandable. I also really like the politics of Quel'Thalas and their relations with the Horde, the Alliance, and the High Elves. That being said, I'm still waiting for some detail on the story of Prince Kael'thas Blizzard. There's a line in the new Illidan novel where Kil'jaeden exchanged thoughts with Kael'thas for a bit while he was meeting with Illidan, but it's not enough. I want Kael'thas lore. Number 2 on my list are the Orcs. You probably should have known that they would be high up, considering how many lore facts I've done on Orc clans. Well, I've also done lore facts on Orc clans when I run out of topics, but that's beside the point. Regarding the Orcs, I like how, unlike most other fantasy universes, that they are actually developed and that they are actual characters. I like their society, both the uncorrupted one and the old Horde one, or as I like to call them, the interesting one and the badass one. I love the storyline of their blood curse and how it affected them as a people even after the curse was lifted, and I also like the additional implications of the older orcs feeling guilty and responsible, and the younger orcs only seeing the glorious parts of the past and feeling that they do not have anything to apologize for, and that instead they, as a race, are entitled to leadership of the world. You need only read Garash's short story to see what I'm talking about. Your culture as well is also an interesting one, and I like their attempts to reconnect with their roots during Thrall's tenure as war chief, and I also like that those that reject their origins and embrace instead the path of the old horde, such as the aforementioned youngsters or the various Shadow Council cults. So yeah, the Orcs. If you've known me for a while, you might be surprised that they are not number 1 for me. Well, let's see once and for all who are my favorites. And number 1 is...
Brothers, hear us now! We Zandalari have returned to reclaim the former glory of our people. To see trolls retake the lands that are rightfully ours. And to crush any foolish enough to stand in our way. From the wreckage of the Cataclysm, the Troll Empire will rise again!
Number 1 on my list are the Trolls. I'm not trolling you either. The Trolls in Warcraft are probably the most unique Trolls in fantasy. I personally really like the archetype of the descendants of a formerly great empire who are trying to regain their past glory, and the Troll storylines are filled with that, and I especially like the relationship the Zandalari have with the other tribes and the reverence they receive. In addition, I also like the Troll Pantheon and the Loa, and how they behave more like the Olympian gods rather than traditional good and bad deities. In addition, I also like the Darkspear tribe, the sort of exception to these rules, who have their own interesting storyline and are arguably closer to the original Troll ideal, promoted by the Loa, than the Zandalari and the other tribes who are obsessed with reclaiming their past glory. Trolls be flippin' out, mon. And this brings us to the end of another Top Whatever list. Leave any thoughts in the comments below, and I would also like to hear what your favorite races are. Other than that, I'll see you all next time.